Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Dream Life Decoded and our live dream interpretation. So happy to be here. As many of you know, we are on Tuesdays now, and that's because we're starting some new things and launching some new classes and all of that. So thank you for being here with us. We're going to go ahead and pray and get started. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity, for this time to seek your face, to hear from you in dreams and visions, word of knowledge, word of wisdom, prophecy. God, you said if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of you. And so we ask you, God, that you would pour out your spirit of wisdom, of revelation. God, that you would show us how to hear from you more sharply, more clearly, that it would be said of us that we number among those who can stand in the counsel of the Lord to see and to hear his word. And God, we know that dreams come from you, that they're the love language, the figurative love language of God to his children. And so we thank you for giving us dreams. We ask that you would give us more. We also know in Joel 2 and Acts 2 that part of the outflow of the Holy Spirit and the outpouring of the Holy Spirit is a manifestations of both visions and dreams. So we thank you for our dreams. We thank you for the opportunity to discuss them, to hear from heaven for solutions in our lives. Bless this time and each person that's listening in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Super excited to be here with you. We have some old faces, some new faces. We have, if you haven't heard, we have a new method of lining up what dreams we're going to have. And that's just because we want to make sure that we give a chance for everybody to have an opportunity. And so we ask that you would submit your dreams. And when you submit your dreams, we have a group of people that monitor that look at that. I usually don't see them at all before we go on a live show. But if you do want to submit, go to dreamlifedecoded.com, dream submission. So that's how we do that. I'll leave that up for just a few minutes. If you're wondering how to be on the show, how to get on the show, that's what we do. And then we get started and we rock and roll. So why don't we start with Nancy?
Hello, John. Good evening.
Hi, Nancy. How are you?
I'm good. Recovering, but I'm good.
Yeah, you had surgery, right?
Yeah, I had.
Yeah, how you feeling?
Pretty good, but the stubborn streak in me needs God's fist on it. I just can't stop lifting things that I shouldn't.
Wow. You got to stop doing the deadlifts, at least for a couple of weeks, okay?
Right. So here's my dream.
Okay.
In my dream, I was two people. I was a woman, and I was also a man. The woman of me didn't know that the man portion of me was me. You with me?
Sure.
Okay.
So were you two separate people, like two different entities, or two people in the same body?
Two different entities.
Okay.
Not sure where we met, but we began to develop a relationship. I, knew the right moves in order to win me over. But then there was some issues that he was me, right? That was a big issue. And then we got into some dangerous occurrences and he died. Is that where all my love life is going to go? Dead?
So that's your question.
Yep.
Okay, so let me understand.
That's my question. Yeah.
So in this dream, you were two separate people.
Correct.
So there were two separate entities. There was you as a woman and then you as a man. You as a man knew how to woo you because it knew your heart and how to win you over. And so you developed a relationship. And then somewhere along the way, you guys got into some dangerous situations. He ended up dying, and then you wake up, and that leaves you with the question, does this represent my love life?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay. First of all, I would say no, would be the answer to the question. But here's what I believe. This is a really, really fascinating thing, because I've heard, I've interpreted dreams for people before where they were another person in the dream, and they had no idea until the dream was interpreted that they were somebody else. So kudos to you for understanding that you were both of these entities. So being that you were both of these entities, but represented by two separate people, I believe that that represents two different parts of yourself. Just like there's a facet of God that is the feminine facet of God. A lot of people.
Yes. The nurturer. And John, you're frozen. Am I frozen? The clock is still ticking.
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
You're back.
Yeah. We're having a little bit of a storm here. It's kind of raining or snowing, deciding what it wants to do. And suddenly everything went dead. So glad we're back. So there's two different facets of you. So a facet of you could be the masculine side of you, which could be the protector. It could be the provider. It could be the leader in some aspect or another. It could also be someone that tends to be a little bit more tough, a little bit more masculine in the side of how you handle things, how you approach things. God made us male and female, and male and female are different. No matter what anybody else in the world says or what they want to say or how they try to mix all this and create confusion, the fact is that men are different from women, and I thank God that we are. But I do believe that you can have a masculine side of yourself that tends to be, especially if you've been single for a while, that you don't have a family unit. I'm single as well, and so you have to. I have to cook, and I have to clean, and I have to do my own laundry. And not that those are necessarily just the traditional female roles, but they're considered that. But in particular, I think there's different parts of every human being that tend to be both masculine and feminine. And so what I feel like this means for you in particular is, first of all, there's an identifying of a masculine side and a feminine side to you, which I think is good. The other part of that, I think, is a little bit deeper, and it could be something that God wants to address in your life. Because in the dream, you meet and you develop a relationship. So this is realizing that, there's a part of me that tends to be more protective or more this way or that way, what people would consider masculine or whatever. And then there's a part of me that tends to be, the girly side and this and want to be pursued and a love relationship and, different things. And so you're being introduced, the you that's a woman, which is who you are anyway, is being introduced to this side of you that's more masculine. And and you're beginning to know and understand and become familiar with this side. You're beginning to develop a relationship with this side. You're like, okay, well, there's a part of me that, man, if I see injustice or unrighteousness, it just rises up in me and wants to go to war and something like that. Well, that could be a masculine tendency. That could be part of the masculine side of you. And so getting to know that is something that God is addressing in this dream. But then the idea that there's battle or there's warfare or there's a dangerous situation that you go into, and the masculine side has died. To me, that represents God wanting to let you know that there could be a part of you that, because of trauma, it could be pain, it could be medical things, it could be any number of things, that the dream doesn't address why, but that you've gone through some things that a part of you or an expression of you has died. And I believe what God is saying is he wants to make you a whole person in that respect. So the first thing is understanding and recognizing that I could have a different part of me that tends to be more masculine than feminine. 2, accepting that part and developing a relationship. And then 3, if God is addressing that there's a part of that, and we don't really have a time frame of that, so we don't know when that happened or if that happened. But I would search your heart and just see if that resonates with you, and if there's a part of you that, a lot of times, especially in relationships, I know in my life, if you get your heart broke, if you get hurt really badly in a relationship, a lot of times we want to make agreements, and some of the agreements are like, well, I'm never doing that again, or I'm going to do this, or, sometimes we take years off of dating because we don't want to put ourselves in that situation again. And I think what happens is, because of certain things that we're involved in, and it could be a relationship that doesn't end well, there can be a part of our heart that feels like it's died. And I feel like God wants to resurrect that so that all parts of our heart are whole and complete and ready for him to bring the right person into our life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I have had some deep relationships that have ended with his death. So I can see putting up the walls and protecting my heart that way. But I still want to develop a relationship with a man.
Yeah. Well, and I think especially, that's a trauma to go through that. That's a trauma. And so people can make vows or promises that, like, man, I'm never going to give my heart. I'm never going to love somebody as much as I love that guy. Or, man, I'm never going to date somebody that, is older than me because he might die before I do, or whatever the situation is. And when we do that, I feel like there's a restriction which closes off a part of our heart. And I feel like what God is saying is he wants you to be open to the idea of a man in your life, which first means to make sure that all parts of your hearts haven't made an agreement with, well, because I got hurt here, I'm not going to do this.
Okay.
I believe what he's pointing out is that he wants to resurrect that. So your whole heart is complete and willing to be given to another in a love relationship in the future.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nancy.
Have a great day.
All right. You too. I love it when God addresses the concerns and issues of our heart. All right. Let's go with Ryan.
Hey, John.
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. You look surprised that you got on.
Yeah, because my TT was like freaking out. My grandma.
Wow. All right. Who is your grandma? Do I know her?
She's on your classes, actually.
Oh, what's her name?
Terry.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, hey, it's good to have you on the show.
Yeah. It's nice to see you, John.
You too. Tell me your dream. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
So my dream started when me and my dad and my brother were on his flatbed, because he has a flatbed truck. And we were stargazing and conversating. And then a huge meteor was striking down on the earth. Like, you could just see it going really fast down to the earth. And what happened was it hit the surface, and when it hit the earth, it blew us back like a big shockwave. Like if Jesus put his hands on the earth and a big shockwave hit the earth. And
wow.
my brother said that's a shockwave that shook the earth. Like, he said it to me while we were flying back. And once we hit the ground, I looked around and we were in Lonely Survivors, and everything was flattened. Like, the entire earth was flattened. And I could see where the meteor hit the earth. There was a big molten hole in the earth, and it scared me because I thought of hell as soon as I saw it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's my dream.
Wow, that's crazy Thanks for sharing that, by the way. But man, there's some really interesting themes I see. The first one is you're on the back of a flatbed truck,
Yeah.
right? And then this meteor comes and flattens the earth. And now the earth is flat. It reminds me of flat earth theory, right? The whole idea that we don't live on a round globe, but we live on a flat, I don't know. I've read some of that stuff, and it's interesting. I'll just say that. I don't want to argue flat earth theory, but you can go down some weird rabbit holes with that stuff. But I think it's, so you were there with your brother and your dad.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. And after the media hit, you guys were the only survivors?
Yeah, the entire earth was flattened. It was black and red. Wow. It was cracked and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a risk here and say I don't think it's literal.
Yeah.
Though I do have, there's a lot of people that have meteor dreams, earthquake dreams, tsunami dreams. But I think what it's representing is the idea of a shaking, of actually something coming from heaven. In this particular case, some fiery revelation coming from heaven that you can physically see striking the earth. So there's an impact. And then there's the wave after the impact, which is the death and destruction that flattens the earth and spreads around the world, and all the trees are knocked down, and the shock wave that you feel and knocks you off the back of your truck and everything else. So I believe what this is related to in particular is some things that I believe are going to happen in our nation. And I believe that there's going to be some revelations coming from heaven that are going to be pretty fiery. They're going to be like, wow, this is pretty controversial. It's pretty, there's going to be people that are going to want to deny it and say, oh, that's just a shooting star, and oh, that's not this and all that. But at the point of impact, once that thing lands, once it hits, there's no denying it. Yeah. There's absolutely no way that anybody will be able to deny what happens, because we'll all feel the after effects. We'll feel the shaking of the earth. We'll feel the shock wave. We'll see the trees, and we'll see the carnage. We'll see the people that don't survive because of this. But I believe it's figurative, related to some things that are going to happen in the world. And I believe there's some things that are going to happen pretty soon.
Yeah.
In our lifetime. Maybe in the next few months or the next year or two.
Yeah, I actually had 2 or 3 dreams about meteors, and one with a nuke. And one of my dreams, it was a rapture, and Jesus took us up to heaven. That was one of my dreams.
Wow, that's an amazing dream. That sounds like counter almost.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So I don't feel like it's literal, though there's a lot of people that have prophesied things like meteors. I feel like what it's related to in here is just a revelation coming from heaven that is going to be undeniable when it hits. And the only people that are going to be left standing are the people who have the faith in God. And I think that's represented by you, your brother, and your dad. That's the remnant of 3. Everybody else that wasn't ready for it, didn't see it coming, didn't prepare, it's probably not going to go well for them.
Yeah.
And it's going to land flat.
Yeah. So you're saying that the ones that have faith and believe in Jesus, he's going to have his hands over them and protect them when it happens.
Yes. And that's what's represented by you and your family.
Yeah.
So
well, that's great to hear.
Yeah, man. I would be encouraged. I wouldn't let it scare you. Continue to write your dreams down. Man, I wish I would have wrote all my dreams down when I was a kid, just because I remember a few of them, but I only wrote one down. But man, just hearing God at your age and continuing to develop that relationship with God as you write your dreams down and see some things that happen, it's just gonna be great for you in life, man.
Yeah, my grandma, she's really encouraged me to do all of this. So she's always saying, write your dreams down, say your prayers, and stuff like that. So she's really got me to know God, especially.
Man, that's great. How old are you, Ryan?
I'm 13 years old.
13. That's when I wrote my first dream down, was 13. That's so cool. Well, hey, man, thanks so much for being here with us. We appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you, John.
All right. You take care, buddy.
You too. See you later.
See ya. Awesome. I love that. I love that. All right. Let's go with Darlene. Hey there.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for picking my dream.
Absolutely. We got another little one with us. All right.
Yeah. Busy over here. All right. So should I just get started with my dream?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So my kids, my husband, and myself, we went to Walmart to buy cookies. While pulling in, I noticed my friend Alice, coworker, Tristan, was pulling in. I noticed Alice there while we were pulling in. She was putting up her hood up. So I went to check on her to see if she needed me to pick anything up for her, specifically oil. I pulled what I thought was the oil dipstick, and I realized it was in a spray bottle. All of her car fluids were in bottles, and it made no sense. Not a single hose, battery, or even an engine. I pulled the wrong dipstick, so she grabbed the right one. So I began to tell her how confused I was about the fluids, but ran off to Walmart to get the treats and oil. My husband, Renee, yelled over asking what was taking so long. So as I was running off, I just told him to go see for himself because I couldn't explain it. In a new scene, I'm correcting my parents' blinds, looking out their back window, when my dad tells me my cousin was also broken down in a semi-truck in a large parking lot. I asked if it was my little cousin Anthony, and then I woke up.
You asked what?
If it was my little cousin Anthony.
Okay. So the first one, you're at Walmart with your husband and your kids. You're going to go shop for cookies.
Yeah.
You run into your friend. She's having something going on with her car.
Yeah.
And you ask her if she needs anything like oil.
Oh, yes.
And then you go to pull the dipstick to check her oil, but she had all of her fluids in like bottles instead of like inside the engine like you typically would.
Yeah.
Okay. And then she handed you another dipstick. And what happened when she pulled the right dipstick and handed it to you?
I was just telling her I was just super confused, and then that's kind of when I ran off.
Okay.
The oil.
And then the second part was the idea about your cousin driving a semi truck and breaking down in the middle of a big parking lot.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's interesting that cars in this particular situation, they represent two different things. The car of your friend represents a vehicle to destiny, and the car of Anthony, your cousin, represents his career, which can be kind of the same, but they're specifically different in this situation. So the idea of having oil in a car, you want oil in the engine, right? Because you want to be able to obviously lubricate and circulate the parts in such a way as to make sure that your engine doesn't overheat and then lock up and shut down. She had her oil in and all of her fluids in bottles, which to me represents the idea. It reminds me right away of the parable of the 10 virgins. 5 had oil for their lamps. The other 5 didn't have enough oil. It got dark, time to light their lamps. And the ones that didn't asked the other ones if they could have theirs. And they said, no, go get your own. And they went and got their own. And the bridegroom returned when they left. And so they weren't ready for basically the return of Jesus. So it's interesting that in both cases, you're hearing about people that are having car issues. You're not having car issues, but you're hearing about people that are having car issues. And so in the first one, do you want to mute for a minute?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, I'll bring you back in after I'm done talking, just so our audience can hear what we're saying here. But the first one about the lady that has her stuff in bottles just reminds me of not having enough, but also having it in storage. You don't want You don't want to burn up your engine while you got a bunch of oil in bottles in the back of your car. Why don't you put the oil in the engine and put the oil to work? So it's the idea. Oil in particular represents several things biblically. It represents like the oil of the Holy Spirit, but it also represents the oil of fellowship. Psalms talks about how good and pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious oil upon the beard, even Aaron's beard. So it's the idea of anointing representing relationship, both with man and with God. And if you have oil in bottles, it's kind of like the idea, instead of having it in the engine or in the lamp, it's like having a bunch of friends that you could call, but you don't call. Well, I got a whole ton of people that are in my life, but I never see them and I never hang out with them. Well, they're not really doing you a whole lot of good. They're people that you could draw from, but you're not. And it's interesting too, that as you notice kind of the weirdness of the situation with your friend's car, you're kind of like, you know what, I'm out of here. And you just kind of withdrew from the whole situation. And then when you got home, you heard about the situation with your cousin and his career and needing breaking down. It doesn't say he broke down because of oil, but it's just the idea that oil is definitely, lack of oil will definitely cause your car to break down. And so you never want to operate with a lack of oil, actually not in the car, in a bottle somewhere, but in the engine. And so what I think this is talking about is two people in particular in your life that may need to have some extra oil. And I think the actionable intelligence for you is to talk to both of them and just kind of check in with them. It's the idea of the dipstick. Just kind of take their temperature. Hey, how you doing? How you feeling? Are you depressed? Are you going through anything? Is there anything I can pray for you for? But also being an encouragement in their life, and also encouraging them to go to the Holy Spirit if there's anything that they feel is broken down in their journey, and encouraging them to get that oil and then immediately apply that oil to their life. That's what I feel like the dream represents for you. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
That was
awesome.
A lot more than I expected it to be, but thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing, Darlene. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So cool. I love it when God uses analogies like that and talks to us in so many different ways about things in the natural. The dream language of God is a lot of people will call the dream language of God the parabolic language of God, meaning it's parabolic in nature or like the parables. One of the things that I want to do ultimately is we did the Dreams Through the Bible Study series. We're going to redo that. But I want to also do a study on visions and even a study on parables related to understanding the figurative language of God, because Jesus spoke in parables. And clearly these are parables that God is speaking to even in these last several. All right, let's do Deborah.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Hey.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
You were in Sim 1, right?
Yep. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Class. It was really good. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yeah. And got to do it with my sister, so
Yeah.
it was nice. It's definitely nice.
Good deal. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you. I dream a lot. So.
All right. So you got a good one for us today?
I think so. It's fairly recent. I send my sister all my dreams, and she thought this was a good one to share. So, so if it's okay, I'll just kind of read it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I arrived in Denver airport, and at the same time, my friend, who also came to visit, was also arriving. We were about to meet up with my husband, who was picking us up, when Elon Musk was there, and he started walking and talking with us. He bought himself a latte and my friend a hot tea. They decided to stay behind and drink it while I decided to go on to get my luggage. But when I got to the part where you walk past like the people through security, you're going through the airport, instead of just walking, it turned into a slide. So So like the whole floor like dipped down, you had to slide down. And it was so unusual that I decided to go back up and slide back down again. And then I went back up to do it again. But this time, um, my friend and Elon Musk, I went up to them and I told them, I said, I never knew that there was a slide in Terminal B. I usually take Terminal C. Elon found that comical and he laughed. I then went down, then we all went down the slide again, but this time it was a curvy slide. It was like kind of like at a water park, except it was dry, no water. And we just had to slide down in order to get to the baggage claim. And then that was it. That's when I woke up. So
Wow, that's really cool. So you're at an airport. Are you going to get on a plane, or you're coming off of a plane?
I'm coming off of a plane, and then my friend happens to be arriving at the same time.
Right. And with your friend is Elon Musk, or you guys see Elon Musk somewhere?
He just kind of meets up with us and starts talking with us.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize it was him until after I woke up. I was like, oh my gosh, I just dreamt about Elon Musk.
Yeah, that's cool. I've had several dreams about Elon. So he's a really interesting symbol in a dream. So being at an airport, arriving at an airport means that you're coming down off of either a season of seeing in a much clearer, further place, or even potentially a promotion. It also means the idea of a new season arriving at a new location. And so you're fresh into a new season because you've just freshly arrived at this new location. And so now you're getting ready to literally kind of go out into the world because you're off the plane, you haven't really experienced yet the atmosphere of the new place, right? Because when you first arrive, you don't really typically go outside. You go through into the building and then down into the baggage claim. And then from there you go outside. So if you fly into Florida in the summer, you don't know how hot it is until you get your bags and you step outside, and then it's 100 degrees and 90% humidity. And you're like, oh my gosh, can I get back on the plane and head to Colorado? So you're in a new season and you haven't experienced the full atmosphere of the new season yet, is the first part that I hear. The second part is you're in a place with two different groups of people. One are friends of yours, so it's a place of community, and another one are geniuses, really smart people. And that's what I believe Elon Musk represents. He just represents, a guy that's become a billionaire in 4 different industries with multiple different companies. He's definitely an anomaly as far as a business person, but also even as thinking outside the box and being a genius. And he represents, in my opinion, a master strategist as well, because he really cares about the environment. And so he either wants to heal the earth or create an exit strategy for humans. And so that's the whole idea of Solar City, the whole idea of Tesla are all environmentally friendly companies. And then, of course, SpaceX is the idea of going to Mars and building a habitable colony on Mars in the event that we can't live on the earth anymore, So whether we believe with his belief system or not, doesn't matter. What matters is the guy's taken his belief system to the nth degree, built $3 billion, multi-billion-dollar companies, and he thinks so far outside the box that, I think it can be a lesson to us all. Having those people around us or with us, I think, will allow us to grow and just be better people. Just listening and spending time. I love spending time with people who think way outside the box, just because it's a learning experience just to be friends with people like that mostly. So what's really interesting is you were kind of the forerunner. They were there talking and you were like, I'm going to go get my bags, right? And so then you were the one that found out is coming through the backside of TSA, I got to slide down this slide. Mm-hmm. And so that represents getting to the bottom of things, particularly getting to the bottom of things where your baggage is. So this could represent like a level of emotional healing. You know, how do you feel about friends, and how do you feel about super smart people? You know, those are the people that are with you when you decide, I'm going to go get to the foundation. I'm going to get to the bottom of things. I'm going to retrieve my baggage. What's really cool is you get more captivated and caught up in the journey of getting to where your bags are, that you don't necessarily pick up your bags. You go back and you do the slide again. Because you're like, this is cool. I'm going to go slide down the slide. I'm not going to sit here and wait for my baggage. And so now at this point, you've abandoned your baggage to go on the journey yet again, because the journey is now fun.
Yeah.
And this is a journey of going down the rabbit hole, getting into exploration, doing a level of research. It's almost like exploring, like when people explore their genealogy, a lot of people, they get really, really hooked on that. And they just want to keep digging up stories about their ancestors, because it may be one of the first times they've gone down a research rabbit hole on their own. And so you're doing that, and then you do it again, and then you go back and you tell your friends and Elon Musk, hey, I didn't know that there was a slide down here. Let's all go down the slide. And normally you're in terminal C, and now you're in terminal B. So being at a normal terminal versus the terminal that you're in, I believe it just represents your path in life. Terminal meaning we all have this terminal disease called life. And pretty much almost every one of us die at some point, you know. And so you were going down a path in life called terminal C. And you backed up and you went to terminal B instead. And you realized that going down the path of terminal B, again, representing your journey in life, is a lot more fun than the path that you've been down before. And so you're like, I want to go down this path. And Elon, who's a genius, thinks outside the box, begins laughing. He's a guy, too, that if you know anything about him, or you've read his book, or you've just observed him, over time, I've watched his movies, read his book, all of that stuff. He's a guy that loves to have fun. He just likes to enjoy life. He works super, super hard, but he's a bit of a prankster, a bit of a jokester, and he likes to have a lot of fun. And he's even that way with his kids, you know. So when you say you found a funner way, a better way, a way that's different than your experience, he laughs, and then everybody goes with you. And so you've researched this place back to the foundations of finding out where your baggage is, but then you abandon your baggage to go on this fun journey. So here's what God is saying to you. Here's the actionable intelligence. You're in a new season. You've just arrived. You haven't experienced the outside atmosphere. You're feeling like first of all, you're meeting friends there, and you're meeting people there that are genius people. Like a spirit of wisdom is there with you. And for some reason, you decide to go down a different path. Going down this different path makes life a whole lot more fun, to the point that you abandon your baggage, which means Isaiah 43:18, forget the former things and do not remember the things of the past. For behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Can you not perceive it? So in this new season, at this new place, with your friends and the spirit of wisdom, this genius person with you, you decide to take a different path and realize it's a whole lot more fun than the path that you always took before. And not only that, you've left the past behind, because you're no longer going to pick up your baggage. You're going just to be on the ride. And then what do you retrieve? Your bags? No. You go back and you retrieve your friends and say, come on this journey with me. And at the last point, when you go down, it's even more fun, because instead of it just being a straight slide, it's now a curvy slide, which can be rated on a fun scale a little bit higher, I think, than a straight slide. So I just feel like you're in a new season that's going to be incredible. Be willing to think outside the box, try different ways, do new things. Forget the past. Forget, well, this is the way I've always done it this way. I've always gone to terminal C. Forget terminal C. Go to terminal B. Well, I feel like I got to go pick up my baggage, and I remember this and that and this trauma that I've been through, and my heart got hurt here. And just have fun in this season with the people that God's placed you with.
Wow, that's incredible. I would have never gotten that at all. So I'm going to have to listen to this again, too, because there's a lot of information.
There is. We'd love to have you back for some more sim classes, too, if you'd like to. But Yeah, this is fun. This is a really fun dream. I like the idea that you're laughing, you're having fun, you're in community, you're going on this new adventure. It's a very good dream for you, Deborah. I really like where it's taken you.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I brought this one. I try to
Yeah.
write them down. Ever since I took the sim, I started writing my dreams down. So
Wow.
they started, well, most of them. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this can take too long to write down. But usually I try to take a minute and write it down.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your dream. I'm glad you were on with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Loved it. Thank you.
All right, you got it. We'll see you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye. You know, for those of you that may be joining us for the first time that have no idea what the spiritual intelligence mentorship is, let me just show you something to introduce you to that concept real quick. In 2018, a conversation between two friends sparked the question, if we really believe we can hear from God in dreams, visions, prophecy, why isn't there a full-time intelligence agency using these gifts to help keep America safe? Over the next year, the need for this agency was confirmed through multiple dreams, and the Spiritual Intelligence Service was born. Spiritual intelligence is the gathering and analysis of information from righteous spiritual sources to formulate a conclusion and facilitate actionable intelligence. In the Spiritual Intelligence Mentorship, also known as SIM, we will teach you to interpret dreams by hearing the voice of God directly, including dreams from and about U.S. presidents. As part of SIM, you will have a role in decoding divine messages used to advise world leaders and impact current events. There's a place for you in SIM. Join us today at spiritualintel.com. So that's the Spiritual Intelligence Mentorship. Love to have you join us. If you want to be a part of that, go a little bit deeper. All the information's on the website. But let us go to Shelley.
Hi, John.
Hey, Shelley, how are you?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me?
Good. You sound really soft. If you could speak
Okay.
up just a little bit.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. My voice is a little challenged, so
Okay.
I'll try to get this out. I am healed in Jesus' name, but I'm dealing with COVID, so but I'm
Okay.
good. I'm good.
Wow.
So thanks for having me on. I want to say thanks. And thanks for showing the clip on the sim. I kept hearing about it, but I kept either missing information or one or the other. So thanks for showing that clip you just showed on the sim. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. So my dream, I dreamt that I was in a hospital bed, but not understanding why. I was looking out the window, which was next to a bed that was empty. The lights in the room were not turned on, but the sunlight, or rather the daylight, from the window seemed to be enough for me to see. A few moments later, a friend of mine came into my room and put her hand on my back and said, "I'm sorry about the cancer." I looked at her, but my reaction to the report of cancer did not faze me at all. I was unmoved, not fearful or concerned. And then I woke up.
Wow, that's an interesting dream. How did the dream make you feel?
Um, usually when I have a dream with a friend that I know, my first is to just kind of ask the Lord if it's literally about that friend or if it's just a representation of a relationship, maybe not necessarily that friend, but just something else. It was just kind of it was just a weird, I don't know if weird's the right word. That's the only one that's coming to mind right now, but just kind of a weird dream that I'm in a hospital and I'm not moved or phased by being in a hospital, and just kind of like, but a hospital's for, if you're sick or if you're ill or have a problem, and I'm not phased by anything, but I'm there. So
Yeah. So you were there in a hospital room, in a hospital bed, and then who was your friend that was with you, or did she come in?
she's a girlfriend. She's a friend of mine that I used to. Well, I say we worked together, but we didn't technically work together. We used to be in the same training program together, and that's how we met each other.
Okay. Are you still pretty close?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you talk regularly?
Just yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's interesting to me. There's a couple of anomalies, and I always lean into anomalies.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably not going to be in a hospital and have no idea why, unless you got a concussion and you wake up like, where am I?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that you were there, particularly in the dream with a long-term illness, doesn't sound literal to me. But here you are dealing with a health challenge right now with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand. It's also the other C word, right?
Yes.
At this stage in human
Yes.
existence, we could dub it that because it's taken on a lot more prevalence. We see so many more people in the hospital struggling with that C word, it seems like, than even the other one lately.
Correct.
But so the idea that you were in there either means one of two things. It either means that it's not you, or it means that that there could be a challenge that you don't know about yet. I think because of the way that you reacted, to me, it represents the idea that it could be somebody else because you were completely unfazed. Most people, when they get a diagnosis like that, they're not completely unfazed. They're worried, concerned. At minimum, some people could have a traumatic experience and, go into shock depending on what their experience has been with other people that have had a similar diagnosis. It's obviously not a piece of good news for somebody to get that. You're unfazed, like not moved at all. So yeah, just like doesn't even bother you. It's like somebody walked down the hall. So what? Okay, no big deal.
Yeah. Literally, that's how it's like, okay, whatever. And cancer is not like, oh, whatever. It's just,
yeah.
But that's my reaction. It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. You're just like, So to me, it makes me wonder if God is putting you in the perspective of somebody else that may be dealing with that diagnosis and may either be struggling physically and not know why yet. And they haven't discovered that they have that diagnosis. So I'm not saying this is what it is, but I'm saying the first thing I would do is call your friend that was in the dream and say, how are you feeling? Are you struggling with anything medically? Is there anything that, just, and again, it may not be them at all. And that's great if it's not.
Right.
But since that was the only person in the dream that you recognized, right?
There, and this is just coming to my memory now. There vaguely may have been a nurse, but there was no interaction with a nurse.
Okay.
And it was, I want to say, like either in the room, because I was in the bed that was closest to the door, because the bed that was closest to the window where the daylight was coming in was empty. So
yeah,
there may have been a nurse in the room, but there was no interaction with that nurse. And that is just coming to my memory. Like it was very vague, very vague.
Yeah. How long ago did you have this dream?
I probably a week or two, maybe 2 weeks ago. It was
okay, so fairly recent.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yes.
So last year.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I know, right? We're in 2022.
Right.
Yes.
So last year. Okay. It's interesting. The other thing that you represent was the light. The sunlight was more than artificial lighting, right? Did they have the lights on, or you didn't know if the lights weren't on the room because there was so much outside light coming in that you may not have
There was
needed
so
it?
much outside light, but I don't recall the lights being on. And I say that because whenever I picture hospital room lights. They're so bright, and it wasn't
Mhm.
that bright. But it was bright enough in the room but it was almost like I said sunlight, but it was more just daylight. So you can have a really bright day that's overcast, but there's no sun. Like you don't see the sun, but it's still bright, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So who told you the diagnosis?
The friend said the diagnosis. The
Okay,
friend
and
said,
what-
I'm sorry about the cancer.
Okay. So you weren't aware that no doctor, no nurse, no medical person came in and said this. It was your friend that said, "Hey, I'm sorry."
Right.
Okay. And that was really the only thing that was said in the dream, right?
That was the only thing that was said. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. What was your friend's name? Just first name?
Antoinette.
Antoinette. Do you know what Antoinette means?
I don't offhand.
I can look it up real quick.
I don't offhand. I usually have a reference book.
Sometimes it's significant. It means worthy
Right.
of praise.
That's what it means.
Worthy of praise. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think is really interesting. Highly praiseworthy.
Okay.
Or worthy of praise. I'm reading about a Saint Antoinette, 1790s. Anyway, so the idea of worthy of praise, somebody that's coming in whose name means worthy of praise, is cluing you in on the fact that something that doesn't seem real praiseworthy is happening. Mm-hmm. To me, it realizes the idea of two things. The light in the room is the idea of illumination or revelation, something being revealed. Mm-hmm. And something worthy of praise is the idea of and she was rubbing your back too. That's right.
Yeah, she put her hand on my back. Yeah.
Her hand on her back. So it's the idea of support and care. But also the idea of, to me, what I think of when I think of worthy of praise is I think of a testimony. Thank God. Like if somebody had that diagnosis and overcame it, that's highly praiseworthy for sure.
Correct.
And I know so many people that have had even 4-stage cancer diagnosis, people that have had 2 months to live, and they've been fine and completely healed. And so cancer, even a cancer diagnosis, doesn't mean what it used to mean back in the day. It means a lot less now. Typically, it just means, well, okay, you got to tighten it up. You got to eat right. You got to do things. You got to make sure that, monitor the situation. The biggest thing with cancer is you don't want it to metastasize. You don't want it to grow.
Correct.
You want it to shrink and then eventually to go away. And that can happen in many ways. But it's also interesting that cancer is something that people talk about related to, in particular, unforgiveness. The idea of unforgiveness can grow, and offense even in somebody's heart can grow, and then it can be metastasized into a group of people where, they begin to talk about the offense that they had with somebody else, and now somebody else has that same offense, and now there's a whole thing. It just grows and grows and grows. And it's those kind of things that I believe God wants cut out of our mouth, so we're not gossiping about other people, but also cut out of a community of believers. The idea that your friend, high praiseworthy, was there rubbing your back, literally meaning she has your back. I think it literally means that in any given health challenge, there's a friend behind you that has your back. And we also believe that the whole idea of high praiseworthy is the idea of testimony, that the testimony of Jesus is the word of prophecy. Two things I would say. I don't believe the dream is literal. However, if you feel like you have a health challenge or you have,
right. I don't sense that either, John.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant to say that earlier. That's not something I sense as well. I don't sense that it's literal.
I don't sense that it's literal, but I would also look at, if your friend or anybody that you recognized in the dream, if they're having a conversation with you and they're like, man, I just really have this lump or this thing or this and that, I would encourage them to get it checked out just because, just to be safe.
Okay.
But also anything in your life related to community, particularly a community perhaps that this friend is involved in with you. If there's any mutual friends that maybe you have an offense against or that's had an offense against you, or any cancer in relation to the spirit realm, or in particular, I feel like it's even more related to a relational realm, I would just double check that and make sure you deal with anything like that.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Yeah. And to tapping into the part where you're, I think initially you were mentioning perhaps asking this particular friend in the dream, she's had some challenges. She's had some health challenges, and she had 2 surgeries in the same year, and she's had some. It's almost like you were saying, if there was a challenge for me, this is a person who has my back. I was kind of that friend for her. We're both single. We both moved out here from different places. She moved here from Alabama. I'm sorry, I'm in the DC region. And so she moved here from Alabama. I moved here from California, and we were in a training program with the federal government. So we kind of came here together over 10 years ago, and we just kind of became friends.
what training program?
I work for the Department of the Navy. And so it's a financial management program. I work in the budget for the Department of the Navy.
That's awesome. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Yeah, it's civilian. I mean, we're civilian. It's been an interesting ride. Interesting ride here. But we've both kind of grown in our careers here together, even though we met after we came here. And so it's just kind of, but I mean, as far as in relation to the dream, we always check on each other other night, like this particular challenge I'm going through. This is my second round of COVID, but it's incredibly mild. I'm grateful for that, of course, but she has had some interesting challenges that have, we've had to pray and just, believe God for the best. Her surgeries were successful, but she has had a lot of challenges. So that's something that I'll, as the Lord leads, I can just ask him to do that. But yes, working here, and we kind of work together, but that's our relationship. So we're just kind of here to support each other.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. That's interesting.
So, yes. Well, thank you, John. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna have to go back and watch again, of course, but
absolutely,
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And
yeah.
I'm gonna look further into the sim information based off of what I do. I can't go into it a lot.
Sure.
With what I do, but I'm very interested. So thank you.
Yeah, sounds great.
Thank you very much.
We'd love to have you. Thanks, Shelley.
Thanks. Have a good
one.
one.
All right, take care.
Thanks.
All right. Wow. Yeah, we want to be really careful with how we interpret dreams and make sure that we're hearing from God correctly. God can, of course, give us warnings in dreams, but a lot of times dreams can be figurative. And so this is one of the reasons why, me personally, we don't use dream dictionaries. In the classes that we teach, we don't use dream dictionaries. What we want to do is we want to teach people to hear and discern the word of the Lord. Because you could look up something like cancer in a dream dictionary, and it may tell you this or may tell you that, but it may not tell you whether it's literal or figurative. And it may not tell you what it's related to. And so that's why we teach what we call the Joseph method, which is just hearing from God in the word of knowledge. Those of you that have been around a while know that. So, Kathy.
Hey, John.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for using my dream and having me on tonight. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's good to have you.
Thank you. So this was a dream I had a while ago.
Okay.
And it was from January 25th, 2019. But since we're at January, I thought, interesting. Maybe this is a good time to have this interpreted.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm in a car. I'm driving. I look down and I see I have a baby in my hands who is heavy head, naked, white, sleeping, beautiful. There is a person sitting to the right of me. I think it's a woman. I look up out of the front window and realize that I'm not doing a very good job driving, that I'm paying too much attention to the baby, and that I am running out of gas, and I need to stop and get some more before I can go anywhere. I see a gas station just as the car I am driving is running out of gas and is about to die at an Exxon station at the intersection on the right. Now I am at the gas station. I can't seem to see where the pumps are now. I'm inside the gas store looking out the window, and I see that it is dark outside and the pumps are not working because there has been a power outage. None of the pumps are getting gas. That's why I start to get concerned that I've put us in a bad situation. I'm not paying attention.
So you're driving and suddenly you look down. And first of all, was it your car?
I think so.
Okay. Was it your baby?
I didn't have a sense it was my baby.
Okay. So you look down in your lap and there's a baby. Did you say it had a heavy head?
Yes.
A heavy head. What do you mean by heavy head?
Okay, so if I'm holding the baby in, well, I don't know how I could drive if I'm holding it in my hands, but let's say if the baby's lying across my hands and I have the kind of head in the right hand, it's heavy.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. So a heavy head, it's white, it's naked, and it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if it was a boy or a girl?
Mm.
Didn't happen to notice.
I think it was a girl, but not sure.
Okay. And in the midst of taking care of that baby, you suddenly realize that you're probably not driving properly and that you're running out of gas and you're not really paying attention to the road. And then you're like, well, I'm just about to run out of gas, but here's a gas station. And so you pull into the gas station. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much the dream, right? Any other details I missed?
Oh, well, then at the gas station, there's been an outage and the pumps aren't pumping gas. So I can't get the gas. And
can't get the gas.
Dream.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So here's what I believe. I believe that there's something that's landed in your lap, and it could be a person or a situation that isn't yours, but that you've taken it on to take care of it. And in the process, it's drained your resources and kind of derailed your life a little bit. Your car representing your vehicle to destiny. And you know, it reminds me of a lot of people in this generation. The grandkids are having babies and they go back to work and they put their kids with grandma, you know. And so grandmas are raising the next generation of children because the moms are working and, you know, they're off earning money for the family and all of that. And so it's caused some things to happen in particular with how grandparents spend their time. I know there's some grandmas that just, you know, they have the attitude of, oh, they're so beautiful and I love them and how precious. But at the same time, you know, on and on and on, it can drain time and resources. And so I feel like it's a situation like that. It's not something that you birthed in particular, but it's something that has kind of been put into your lap. And it's an opportunity for discipleship, And it could not be a baby. It could be a young adult. It could be a teenager. It could be somebody that you're mentoring. But it's something that is like a baby, which means you see the potential. So you see the beauty, and you're very patient, and you're loving, and you're like, oh, this is awesome. But at the same time, if it's consuming all of your time and your energy, next thing you know, you run out of gas in a season or at a place where you can't get more gas. And so I feel like the message is, don't let what somebody else birthed derail you to the point that you can't continue on in your own journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's interesting interpretation of that I'd never think of. I was thinking of more so literal, and it could be somebody that I've mentored in the past. It's very possible.
Yeah, and especially if there's a situation, and it may not be readily recognizable because you consider it a privilege. Oh, this baby's beautiful, but the head of the baby is heavy. That was an interesting thing. It was heavy-headed, and I'm like, well, that's an interesting way to describe a baby, which means there's a weight to it. It's not just like, oh, it's light as a feather. No, there's a weight to carrying this thing, and there's also a level of distraction from the vision and the purpose that God has for your life in order to take care of this. And then, of course, the danger is running out of gas in a season where you're not able to get more gas. So that could be concerning. And of course, the gas is akin to what we talked in one of the other dreams, the idea of oil, which is, your relationship with God and the Holy Spirit. If you spend all your time mentoring and pouring out, and you're not going back to get refilled from Papa, you can get easily exhausted and worn out. And so it's that kind of I believe it's kind of a warning. It's not a heavy, deep warning. It's not a car crash. It's not anything like that. It's just, remember to keep your eye on what I've placed in front of you while you're helping others. And also remember to stay filled up for the journey ahead, because this is a season that you can't be stuck without gas.
It's good.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. What a great dream. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Wow. Cool. Great dream. Kathy should be an audiobook reader. That's awesome. I love some of these comments that we get here. I feel the exact same way about this dream. Cool. That could happen to any lay minister or Christian. Yes, that is very, very true. I think it's a good warning for all of us. All right. Olga.
Hi, John.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you. Good.
Good to see you.
You too. So this was not very recent. I think this was about 6 months ago. This dream, but so I have this dream that I'm in my coworker's apartment. We're about to be on some kind of assignment, but we're waiting for a plane to arrive. So I'm hanging out at his apartment until the plane comes and takes us. I feel very close to this man. Like, I have like a very brotherly affection towards him, but he's not like biologically my brother. I'm in his living room, and there's a bed in his living room, which seems very out of place because he has a bedroom. And he's just laying there as if he's like watching TV, and I'm just sitting there upright in the bed. And in his living room, there's another man who I understand to be his partner, seemingly homosexual, is pacing back and forth very anxiously, as if like my presence there is like threatening to him. And then I get up to use the restroom, which is in the bedroom, and the same man, the partner, his robe moves, and I could see his private body parts, but they're not like male body parts or female. It's almost like a doll. So there's like nothing there almost. And he also had a black robe with like pink and red flowers. And after that, I just went to use the restroom, and that was the end of the dream.
Wow, really interesting dream. So there's a lot that's out of order in this dream. So the first is to have a bed in your living room. So it's kind of a double entendre. He's living and or in bed with an area of his life or a lifestyle of sin and compromise. Now, this is what the dream is said. It's not necessarily talking about this guy, though it very well could be. It's a coworker. It's somebody that you care about as a brother, that you have a level of affection for, like their family. It could represent a physical brother. It could say again. It could represent a physical brother.
Yeah, you broke up. I couldn't hear the last couple of sentences.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just saying. I was saying this. This friend that you have that was a coworker, but also like a brother, like a family member close to you, could represent a. I believe it represents somebody that you have that level of relationship with, both a coworker and a close friend. Could be your brother. Could be. Could be this guy in particular, if this guy represents those things. It's somebody that you care about and you're close to in life, and you guys are getting ready to go do something together, right? And so what God is showing you is he's showing you that, do you know what you were going to go do?
No.
Okay. Was it like a military operation, or was it like going to work, or was it like just going to go somewhere?
It kind of felt similar because before COVID, I used to travel a lot for work, and we used to fly, and we used to because I work for the state, and we used to kind of just check on make sure their documents are in order and everything is properly maintained. So maybe like that, but I'm not sure.
Okay. So it's interesting that, to me, this represents there's an area of compromise in the guy's life that to you is out in the open. It's not open to people that aren't in his life, but once you're inside his domicile, his residence, you see the bed in the middle of the living room. Most people's bed is in their bedroom, and that's not typically where we go over to their friend's house and hang out in their bedroom. It's you kind of keep the bedroom stuff in the bedroom, and there's a level of hiddenness to that part of a lot of people's lives. This guy's not that way. It's not that he's completely out there with everybody, but he's out there with people that know him and may have access to his life in his living space in particular. So I think it's interesting is that whatever this area of compromise is represented by this relationship, and I don't feel like the relationship is necessarily real. I don't feel like it's literal because of what you mentioned that, when you saw the anatomy of this particular other person, and it wasn't real. It was non-existent. It was like almost a eunuch or like a doll or something like that. So what I feel like is it's an area of compromise, and it's an area of compromise to his manhood in particular. It represents getting in bed with an area of compromise that can emasculate someone, whether it's a relationship with a Jezebel spirit, or whether it's something like an ongoing addiction to pornography, or it's something that erodes his authority and his self-worth. There's something that he is in bed with that God is giving you the ability to see, because if you're going to travel with this person and work with this person, he thinks that you should know. That thing, whatever that thing is, and I would say it's the spirit behind that thing in particular, is threatened by you. And it's threatened by you because you're a prophetic seer and things are revealed to you, but it's also threatened by you because you'll very likely not tolerate it in his life. You're probably going to bring it up and you're going to say something. And so it feels like, well, I don't like the fact that she's here and I don't want her here. And so you go into the restroom, and do you have any interaction with this other person?
No, he was standing there looking at me, and I looked at him. the rope
Okay.
kind of just moved. And that's
Yeah. So it's this idea of he's being exposed, and he knows, and he doesn't like the fact that you're there because he knows that you can see and that there's a level of exposure happening. And for you to be on a road or in a place of travel, moving together with this other person, you're going to want any area of compromise and any area of, what could be seen as something that erodes his ability to be who God's called him to be. You're going to want that out of his life if he's going to be running with you. So the warning is, and it's a warning. It's not a real deep warning, but it's it's not like Danger, Will Robinson, but it's a warning of kind of know who your friends are and those that you're choosing to walk with and work with on an ongoing basis, that you're choosing to be in their life and in their living space. Make sure that, they're doing things that are on the up and up, because those things will want to attack you because of the authority that you carry in the Spirit.
So you don't really think it's particular towards any specific person that I know? It could just be a general warning for the future?
Well, I think it's somebody that you work with and you feel like family with. It could be this guy in particular. I don't know the context of your friendship with this guy, but it could be that. It could be somebody like that. A lot of times it'll be, a lot of times I've noticed that God will deflect from who somebody is. Like God will share, well, he's like a brother. Well, it could actually be your brother. And you never thought that, well, I never thought my brother might be having some major compromise in his life. And if he would have given you a dream with your brother in it, you may have dismissed it out of hand thinking, oh, my brother's he's not compromised in any particular area. And so he shows you somebody that's like, you said, he's like my brother. And so the fact that you said he's like your brother, do you have brothers? Do you have any spiritual brothers? Anybody that's close that you feel would be like family or like a brother?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay.
Was this guy, but not now.
Was this guy really like a brother to you, the guy in the dream?
Well, that's what it felt like. I had a very close relationship with him. Like I cared for him very deeply.
Oh, just in the dream, but you don't in real life?
No, I don't know. I don't know this person in real life.
Oh, you don't know the person in real life?
Sorry, I should have made that clear.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I thought it was somebody that you knew. Well, I think it represents somebody that you're close to in a respect. It could be somebody at work. It could also be somebody that you have a deep level of caring and relationship for. Is somebody that you're going to be going somewhere with, has an area of compromise that's being exposed. You're seeing it. You're calling it out. That area of compromise is threatened by you. And I think God put you there for a reason so that he could clean it up. So if it's not something that resonates with somebody existing in your life, realize that it's something that could come into play and God is giving you an advance warning of it. If you have the dream again, that means the matter is firmly decided and it will happen soon, which means look for it to happen relatively quickly after that. If you have it 3 times, it probably means it's either happened already or it's going to happen within the next couple of days. So God will increase the frequency of recurring dreams to hint at time frame. So, and also if there's somebody that you're getting ready to go on a trip with, that you're going to be traveling with and working with, that you have a genuine affection like a brother for, I would begin to pray and say, God, is this the person? And is there something that I need to know about this person? Because God wants you traveling with the right people at the right time.
And it could be like you brought up, it could be an addiction or something, a level of compromise, but it's not necessarily like homosexuality, right?
Right, not necessarily. And in particular, since the body of this other person wasn't, anatomically correct, it's almost like, it's like you said, it's built like a toy. It's like a doll, so it's the idea that it represents something and is not literal.
All right, I got to clear something up. Sorry. Okay, so the brother was just like a regular man, but his partner that was with him in this house, right, that was the person that had the
right,
strange.
Right, and to me, what that represents is a spirit.
Okay.
And a spirit represented in a figurative form, whether it's a visual that you see or it's something that you see in a dream, often will have the characteristics of what that spirit does. That's why I said if that spirit doesn't have male body parts but is clearly a male, it's a spirit that'll emasculate men. So what emasculates men? Things like pornography, things like the spirit of Jezebel, things like a discouraging spirit that tells a man you're not worth anything and you're blah 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 and and so those are those type of spirits that this person is literally getting in bed with and coming into agreement with, which is out of order, and it's happening in a living space that you are now in this living space, which means God is going to reveal it to you, and the spirit is not going to like the fact that you're there because you're going to expose it and you're going to tell this guy, hey, you got to get out of bed with this thing. And it could be a spirit of addiction. Addiction also can be very emasculating. You know, it can take your resources, your drive, depending on like if it's drugs or alcohol. It can, you know, you end up being half of the human that you used to be if you continue in that type of pattern. So it could be any one of those things, but you're going to know it and you're going to see it. It's literally going to be exposed to you. And you're going to be like, okay, you know, the next thing that you would obviously do is go have a talk with him. But you were in the restroom, which is the secret place, which means God's going to reveal something to you in the secret place about this situation, and you're going to know, and you're going to expose it. And I believe the reason you're exposing it is to clean up his living space, which means his life, and also so he can continue to be in the land of the living, because there's addictions that can kill people, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's a good dream. It's a dream of intelligence. It's a dream of foretelling. Since you don't feel like there's anybody that represents somebody you work with and or somebody that you have a deep affection for, like a brother currently in your life, then I feel like it's yet to happen.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing your dream. Wow. Good dreams tonight. All right. Maria, are you with us? I can't see you on screen. Are you there? Maria, if you could can you turn your camera on? Okay, let's go with Hadassah.
Oh, surprise.
Hi there.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. This is a really wild dream.
All right.
Okay, so this is, I had this dream on May 21st, 21. And it goes like this. It's a dream about a bad truck driver.
Okay.
And I got a lot of revelation from God about this, but let me just read the dream first. Okay, so and I woke up at about 7:30 a.m. I dreamed I was renting a truck and hired a driver, which I called him an owner-operator. There was nobody else in the business, just this one guy. And I was getting ready to move, and I actually did move about 6 days later. So this was something I was actually looking into. The truck I rented was a tractor trailer with 2 trailers, or containers, they are often called. The first was 40 feet long, and the second tandem trailer was 20 feet long. All I needed was the 20-foot trailer. The driver, we both got into the cab, and I rode with him in the cab. The driver drove wildly, like he was out of control and in a panic, going the wrong way up the off ramp and ended up on the other side of the interstate, going down a dirt road into a swampy area, straight off a riverbank, like a ledge, and it plunged into deep water. And this was dark, deep water, like straight off the ledge of the riverbank, and it just plunged all the way down, and you couldn't see it anymore. The two trailers, or the containers that were attached to the tractor part of it, just disappeared right as the tractor went into the water. And the man now I'm out of the truck, and I'm standing on the bank, and I'm looking at this whole thing going on, and the tractor part just disappears. So I watched it sink to the bottom, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is an impossible situation. And I know only God can fix this. So not long after that, the tractor and the driver mysteriously rose up out of the water with the driver's head just above water, like here. And he's kind of slumped over, like he looks to be unconscious. And the windows were about halfway down. Both windows of the cab were halfway down, and there was like a river of water pouring out of these windows. And so I dove into the water to get to the cab to pull the driver out and onto the shore. And he was saved from drowning, but I don't actually remember being a hero in this. It was more like I was an observer. And so he's laying out on the bank of the river, and he's going to be fine. I didn't give him resuscitation. God just miraculously saved this truck driver, brought his truck back to the surface, saved his truck, which is really his business, right? Because an owner-operator, they put a lot of money. I mean, sometimes $1 million or more into a rig like that. It's quite expensive. I've known truck drivers, and so they pulled him out. The trailers were nowhere to be seen, and that was about it.
And the trailers contained your stuff that you were moving.
Well, he hadn't made it to my place yet. So
okay. So initially at the start of the dream, you were riding with him, right?
Yep, I was riding with him.
And then somehow you got out of the cab, and then he plunged over the ravine into the water and disappeared.
Right. Yeah, it was wild.
And then magically or mysteriously, he comes back up and is laying on the top, right?
Yep, the whole cab rises up out of the water, and there's rivers of water flowing out of the cab of the truck.
Sure.
Just pouring like a river out of both sides. So you can imagine all the things that God showed me in this.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a hopeless situation, and this thing was brought back, and only God could get the glory.
Right. So what do you feel like it's talking about? I'm asking you that because obviously you've been around our community for a while, and so you know how to interpret dreams as well. And so I like to give those of us that have been around here for a while the opportunity to take a shot as well.
Well, first of all, God resurrected this man in his business. He was obviously panicked. He was alone in his business. And he resurrected his business and the man to new life. The rivers of water pouring out of the cab is also indicative of when Jesus said, "Believe in me, and you shall have rivers of living water pouring out of your belly." And as I'm writing, he gave me 8 pages of notes. And
Wow.
I said, Lord, I can't share 8 pages, well, 7 pages, but I read all through it and timed it. It was like 8 minutes long. I said, Lord, you got to give me something more concise. And so I picked through it all. And I said, okay, I know all of this. Most people know all of this. Deep calls to deep at the noise of your waterfalls. And save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck, Psalm 69:1. And I'm not going to take 8 minutes of your time to do this, but, I think it's God showing us that these jobs that have been lost, and these people that have been in panic and desperation, that God is going to pour rivers of living water back into that job, that situation. And if people will believe on the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, they're going to, and oh my gosh, I started putting this together and I started getting these rivers just coming out of my belly. And I said, oh Lord, because you could just feel, it's not just one river. He says rivers, plural. And if anyone has ever experienced that, when you believe on the Lord, something changes. It is instantaneous. It's not the next day or the day after or a week or a year. It is instantaneous. And so I said, well, Lord, there's so much here. There is so much here. And, Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. That's like my life verse. Mm-hmm. If there was ever one, that would be like in the top 10. So I said, okay, Lord, I can't spend 8 minutes reading through all of this. But I said, so what do I do? So for me, writing it in prose or in verse really, really shortened it down. And it covers all these points. I don't know if you care for me to share that. It's 2 minutes and 2 minutes and 33 seconds.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So here we go. And I hope that this ministers to people, because I'm not a doom and gloom person, even though I've seen a lot of really hard stuff in my life. But God has just always been the glory and the lifter of my head. And this is going to lift some people up. Okay, let me scoot up a little bit. When things have gone wild down the wrong road of life, and all may seem lost in the chaos and strife, billows and floods pour over your land. They cannot keep up with the tears in my hand. Each drop of pain in bottles now filled. Lift up your eyes to the hills, to the hills. Proclaim now this eternal good word. My help comes from the risen Lord. You cannot contain what I will release, 1 vessel or 2 or containers of 3. My great provision shall you see with your eye. It's not what you think. It is sent from on high. baptized in the death of a watery grave, resurrected to life in a glorious wave. Who has an ear to hear the new sound? The water is pouring all over the ground. Chariots and horses never could save. Here is a sign I have spoken this day. Baptized in water and baptized in flame, Holy Spirit infilling that you cannot tame. Follow me now, make no delay. The time is now, restoration, I say. New life springing up from a dry, weary soul, springing up with new life, now making you whole. Trust in the Lord, he is mighty to save. Rise up from the deep and watery grave. Living waters from inside your belly will pour, pouring out to a world to heal and restore. This is the sign of a sinner reborn. He will trust in my name, walk in peace through the storm. The revealer of secrets has now made it known. We bow before Christ on his heavenly throne. As you plunge deeply into the visions of night, open your eyes, hear the Father of light. I alone know the beginning and end, and have poured out my grace, and now call you friend. Seer and visions of night and of dreams, nothing compares to belly-filled streams. How many rivers, you may ask on this day? Revelation is vast. Now what do you say? Consider this promise by my Son that was made in the Gospel of John, chapter 7, verse 8. He that believeth on me, as the scripture hath said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water.
Wow, you got all that from seeking to understand the dream, huh?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow.
That's the Lord.
It is.
I couldn't put that together.
Yeah. Wow.
So what say you, Mr. John?
Well, I think it has to do with the country at large, in particular the supply chain, truckers. I think it's a double portion. I think it's the idea of the crash, the ravine, the baptism, which also represents container ships. You know, the whole flood, the baptism represents the idea of the supply chain on the water. And I feel like there's a resurrection coming. I feel like what I've seen and what I've heard, the supply chain stuff isn't an accident. It's been neglected intentionally to create a crisis. And so I keep telling people, whatever comes next, just know that it was 100% planned. Don't let anybody tell you whatever comes next. Oh, well, nobody could have known. And it was 100% planned by mismanagement and poor management and decisions made by leaders, period. So
Right.
people just need to know that. Yeah. You know, and, but I believe that one thing that they didn't account for and they can't plan for is the idea of a dramatic resurrection, of God getting involved and supernaturally rescuing things and restoring, getting things back on the road, getting things back in place, emptying out the water that's been allowed in. But also, like you said, rivers of living water, when you talk about the supply chain, the whole idea of getting things to flow again is a very timely and apropos analogy for sure. So I feel like that's really interesting and may actually be talking about the times that we're in right now. A great reversal. Yeah. Careers will be restored. And the whole idea of, it's interesting that there's two containers. So it's the idea of the capability of double portion.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole idea of Joel, when it says, I will restore the years the locusts have eaten, the locusts that I sent among you. So it's something that God allowed in particular to happen, and then he restores it. It's what I call a racing recession. So it's the idea of, if you're making $20,000 a year and then you lose your job and you go 2 years without making any money, and then suddenly you get a job making $200,000 a year. Well, in a matter of 2 months, you're going to make more money than you would have made if you would have continued to work those 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be able to buy newer cars and houses and prosper at a level that it does what I call erases the poverty or the recession scar in your life. It erases recession. So, yeah, very good. Thank you for sharing that.
Something that just occurred to me when you talked about the double portion.
What's that?
I only needed a 20-foot trailer, and I got a total of 60. That's a threefold.
That's threefold.
Yeah. That's interesting. Some 30, some 60.
Some 100-fold. Yep, absolutely.
Some 100-fold. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Awesome show tonight.
Well, yeah. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, and God bless everybody. Hang on. It's going to be a wild ride, but God is going to take care of it. And there's situations where you're just going to have to trust in the Lord. And when you cross over that threshold and you say, I'm just going to trust in the Lord, you're going to feel those rivers of living water bearing witness in your soul. You're going to experience that. So just hold on and believe.
Yeah.
Make sure you're born again too.
Yeah, that can help for sure. The whole idea of baptism. Absolutely.
Amen.
But, well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Good night.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye. Awesome. Wow. What a great, rich time this has been. We had one more, but it looks like the camera's not working. So we'll have to do that next time. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Super, super rich time tonight. We do have a couple of things that are designed to help you grow in your dream interpretation. One of which is the spiritual intelligence pipeline. We showed kind of a little preview of what that looks like earlier. The second one is the dreams course. And the dreams course is something that we've built specifically for people who, just want to grow in dream interpretation. And it's the idea of comparing your results to somebody that's a master dream interpreter. To me, it reminds me of like when we had Algebra 2 class and they'd say, hey, go home and do these 20 problems or 20 problems and then compare them with the answers in the back of the book. That's how we designed this course. And so it's 10 modules. And what you get to do is you get to take a dream, put it out in a dream report format, which we show you how to do all that. We show you how to use the Joseph method. And then you interpret each of the symbols of the dream. And then you add a conclusive summary like I have for the dreams tonight. And then you add actionable intelligence and you write that whole thing out. And then what you do is you you click on the next module and then you get to see me do the exact same thing. So just in closing here, I want to show you guys a little promo for that. And then thank you so much for joining us tonight. We will see you next week. By the way, we are on His Glory Network on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. and Sunday nights at 10 p.m. So you can look for us there. Have a good one.
Scientists say everyone dreams. Our brains are made for dreaming. God holds the keys to our dreams, and you can understand His messages. Access blueprints from heaven. Hear the whispers of the lover to his bride. It's time to master the skills. Access biblical decode instructions and unlock the secret love language of God to you.